I was once Fang Yasi, the top playboy and elite young master of Jiangnan.
I used to play the field, never letting anyone capture my heart. Yet, I fell head over heels for Shen Qingyan at first sight. So I threw away my wild playboy ways, spent a fortune, and used a grand 8-carrier carriage to marry her. Who would have thought that before dawn on the 4th day of our marriage, she would ruthlessly shove me right out of bed and onto the floor. Husband. Let's divorce. Husband. Let's get a divorce. Recalling her strange behavior over the past months and her practiced movements just now, I suddenly realized I was being blatantly cheated on. Closing in on her, my voice dropped to a menacing whisper. I stared deathly at Shen Qingyan. Who is he? Who is he? When did this start? And how far have you two gone?
Shen Qingyan didn't expect me to be so sharp.
Right then and there, she stopped hiding it.
She pursed her lips and said bluntly,
It's the poor scholar we've been sponsoring.
Su Huijin?
We haven't done anything yet. Yangxi, I'm sorry. I know this is incredibly selfish of me, but Su Huijin and I, we are soulmates. We share a rare, deep connection. He may come from nothing, but he has integrity and talent. There is a spark in his eyes, a light that you just don't have. My eyes turned ice cold. A mocking smile played on my lips. So, he's better than me. Is that it? That's not what I mean. You're a good man, Yancy. We're just not right for each other anymore. Su Huijin. He understands me on a level that you could never match. Fine, great. Since you've chosen him, I'll let you go. We'll divorce, just like we agreed. I'll make sure you leave with your dignity intact. Thank you, Yancy. I sneered and walked away. Shen Tian, since you value this so-called soulmate connection so much, then go ahead and live a life where no one paves your path with gold, and no one holds an umbrella for you in the rain. My own ambitions are only just beginning. Hey, my own ambitions are only It was all me secretly doubling the Academy's funding out of pocket. She wanted to play the saint by claiming she wanted to sponsor a poor scholar's education. I immediately agreed and allocated 200 tiles of silver to him every year. That scholar's brushes, ink, paper, inkstones, his travel expenses for the imperial examinations, his teacher's tuition, his food, clothing, lodging, and travel. Every single penny was paid from my accounts. I gave Shen Qingyan everything I could possibly give her, except my true identity. I earned 10,000 gold taels a day in Zhangzhou, Isle Manors, docks, and trading firms. Shen Qingyan always thought I was just a young master of the Shi family, living a leisurely life off a modest estate. Little did she know that half of Jiangzhou's canal transport, our taverns, pharmacies, tea houses, and merchant banks are all my properties. I hold half of Jiangnan's train routes in the palm of my hand. Even the livelihood of half the prominent scholars in the literary world is dependent on me. I thought this peaceful, stable life would last forever, until today. For the sake of a poor scholar I funded, she actually decided to leave me. Uncle John! Yo, master, what are your orders? First, prepare the divorce papers. I will grant her this divorce. It may look like I'm letting her leave with dignity, but in reality, the manors I bought for her under my name, the pleasure boats, the merchant shops, and every piece of jewelry and clothing she has worn over the years will be stripped away and reclaimed. She will receive the notice tomorrow. In this divorce, she is the one who will be leaving with absolutely nothing. Second, investigate Su Huijin and cut off all his funding immediately. Send word to the education commissioner and to all the prominent scholars of the Jiangnan literary scene. Deliver my personal letters stating that this man is a vile character and completely lacks the virtue to match his talent. Cut off all his avenues for examinations and recommendations. I want to ensure he never sets foot in a provincial exam hall for the rest of his life. Next, pass down my orders to every poetry gathering and literary salon in Jiangnan, every academy, and private school. They are permanently forbidden from inviting Shen Qingyan to lecture or attend. I want her title as Jiangzhou's top female scholar to become the laughingstock of the entire Jiangnan region overnight. Finally, strip her father of his cushy job at the Canal Transport Bureau and gather all the evidence of his embezzlement of canal funds over the years and deliver it directly, untouched, to the Jiangzhou prefect's office. Sentence him exactly as the law demands. Let there be no mercy. I understand, young master. I will see to it immediately. 森晨呀， Didn't you crave that soulmate connection? Didn't you think that dirt-poor scholar had such noble integrity and talent? Fine. I will strip away his illusions and drag him back to the dirt. I want you to see, once that man loses every bit of support I ever gave him, how much his precious integrity and love are actually worth. Young master, the divorce papers have been delivered. Lady Shen lost her mind the moment she saw them. She completely broke down on the spot, begging to see. You? She kept saying that you lied to her, and that you're being too heartless. I will not see her. What more do you want? Young master, right after we cut off Supai Jin's financial support, he rushed straight to Lady Shen, but he didn't go to comfort her. Instead, he kept badgering her about why his funding was cut, asking if he had somehow offended you. Absolutely terrified that his path to the imperial exams would be ruined. Keep watching them. I want to know their every single move. The next day, I received Shen Qingyan's handwritten plea. Divorce means leaving with absolutely nothing. Does it mean kicking me out onto the streets? Fang Yati, what on earth do you mean by this? I stood there, completely expressionless, looking at the Shen Jian's letter that the butler had just handed me. My heart didn't feel a single spark of emotion. 3 years of devotion ended the very moment she chose another man.
新球员
The real show is only just beginning. Come and look, everyone! The owner of this silk shop is a heartless, cold-blooded beast.
Fang Yangxi, you ungrateful wretch.
You played with my daughter's pure devotion, and now you're kicking her out. Get out here right now! Young master. Should I have the guards throw her out? No need. Let him make a scene. Hey, get Fang Yanxi out here right now. Who does he think he is? Tell Fang Yanxi to come out. What kind of man hides like a coward? This afternoon, old Mr. Shen barged into my main silk shop. He threw a massive tantrum at the entrance for over 2 hours. Seeing that I refused to show my face, he finally gave up and left. He had completely lost that flattering, fawning attitude he used to have with me. Huh. Haha. When I first married Shen Qingyan and came to my estate for the first time, seeing that grand, beautifully decorated riverside villa, his eyes went wide with greed. Old Mr. Shen patted me on the shoulder, acting incredibly warm and affectionate, though his eyes were full of greedy calculations. Yonsi, you really are a wonderful husband. We are one family now. If only you had a street-facing property near the Jiangzhou government office for my younger son to use when he marries. That would be even better. I am sorry, but that is out of the question. I knew it. You never saw us as your own family after all. From then on, old Mr. Shen treated me with cold indifference, constantly complaining that I didn't treat the Shen family as my own. Only now do I see them for who they really are. They never cared about me. Only the wealth and prosperity I provided.
现秦岩拓树华景式的4版本 villa 还魁比西爆火。
Young master, Lady Shen still has the keys to that villa. They've already moved in. Take the villa back. Tell the property agent to bring buyers to view the house tomorrow. My house. I will not let irrelevant people live in it. By evening, I received an unexpected piece of news.
申青岩是 mother， 欧密斯县还看不谈你。
Old Mrs. Shen sat in the main hall, her face filled with guilt and helplessness, looking honest and humble. Yanxi, it is our Shen family that has wronged you. Please, don't say that, madam. This isn't your fault. It's my fault for failing to raise my daughter right, and her father didn't know any better, either. We've caused you nothing but trouble. I've already scolded them severely for what they did, but at this point, It's useless to say any of this. I know you're furious. But for the sake of this old woman, could you please give Qingyan a way out? Don't be too ruthless. After all, she was once yours. Madam, you are a good person. But good people shouldn't defend fools. And you, Shenqing, must take responsibility for your own choices. I'd give Qingyan a chance. But she threw it away. As for a way out, don't worry. I won't let her die. I want her to see with her own eyes how that so-called spiritual bond and soulmate connection she chose is crushed to pieces by cold, hard reality. I was once Fang Yeqi, the legendary playboy heir of Jianan, a notorious rogue who indulged in every pleasure. I was once Thang Yanqi, the legendary playboy heir of Jianan, a notorious rogue who indulged in every pleasure. Yet, of all people, I fell in love with Shen Qingyan at first sight. So, I abandoned my wild playboy ways. I spent a fortune on an 8-Barris sedan chair just to marry her and bring her home. But ever since Shen Qingyan was kicked out of the villa that very night, she took Su Haijin and moved straight into the southern slums. They rented a drafty, run-down shack with a monthly rent of 50 copper coins. And even then, she had to pawn the very last piece of her dowry, a gold hairpin, just to scrape the money together. When she was with me, the bird's nest soup and pastries she had for breakfast could have fed an ordinary family in the slums for an entire year. Yet, after only 2 days without my protection, she is already reduced to pawning her jewelry just to survive. And as for her precious gentleman, Su Huijing's qualification for the provincial exam, an education commissioner rejected it outright. They didn't even let his name onto the candidate list. For the past 2 days, he has been holed up in that miserable shack, constantly sighing and groaning at Lady Shen. Every single word out of his mouth is full of blame. He says if she hadn't insisted on a divorce and offended you, his financial lifeline wouldn't have been cut off, and his future wouldn't be completely ruined. So this is the soulmate of peerless character and unparalleled talent that Shen Qingyan talks so much about. All it took was cutting off his monthly allowance, and he immediately dumps all the blame onto a woman. Young master, Lady Shen has been kneeling at the entrance of the maid office for nearly 2 hours. She is crying and begging to see you just once, saying she wants to beg for your forgiveness and imploring you to show mercy. I won't see her. Tell her to leave. She was the one who was dead set on a divorce back then. Every single word she said was about how I could never give her any soul resonance, and then only Su Haijin truly understood her. Now, after barely 2 days, she comes crawling back to beg me? Oh, by the way, young master, that Su Haijin has also arrived. He is out there at the entrance right now, screaming at Lady Shen. You worthless P times 2. How dare you show your face here? Shen Qingyan, my entire future in the imperial exams is ruined. It is all your fault. Hu Jin? How? How can you say that to me? Back then, you were the one who said Fang Yachi only used his money to humiliate me. You said that even without his money, we could live off our talent alone. Bulk shot times 2. Without money, how am I supposed to sit for the exams? How am I supposed to network with influential scholars? Did you really think I gave a damn about your pathetic, whiny little poems? If you didn't have a husband who could hand over 200 tiles of silver to me every year for nothing, why on earth would I waste my time playing the romantic lover with you? So this is what she gave up everything I offered for. The true love she just had to throw her life away to pursue. Once Su Haijin finished venting his rage, he suddenly lunged forward, grabbing Shen Qingyan by the arm and frantically searching her. Do you have any valuables left? Hand them all over to me.
Fang Yasi gave you so much jewelry back then.
There's no way you handed all of it back.
Shen Qingyan, whoop, 10 shrieked.
Not at all. The two of them were actually making a massive scene, shoving and pulling each other right in the middle of the street, drawing a massive crowd of onlookers. People pointed fingers, whispering and gossiping in disgust. Every single word of it was cursing him, saying he got exactly what he deserved, and mocking him for being completely blind.
We withdrew my gaze.
They calmly instructed Uncle Zhong. Dump Su Kuaijing outside the city gates. Don't let him disturb the peace in front of my estate. As for Shen Qingyan, tell her to get lost. Don't let her be an eyesore here. Yes, young master, Uncle Zhong replied before heading down. Before long, the estate guards rushed out to drag them off.
Su Kuaijing was thrown several meters away onto the ground.
While the guards turned to drive Shi Qingyan away. Get lost, they yelled. But Shen Qingyan suddenly looked up, locking eyes directly with me. A flicker of hope instantly flared up in her eyes. She began kowtowing to me frantically, screaming desperately for my help. Dog! With an expressionless face, I pulled the bamboo curtain shut, shutting out every last bit of noise from the outside world. If she wants to kneel, let her kneel. The spring nights in Jiangzhou were bone-chillingly cold. I want to see if her so-called deep affection for her soulmate can withstand even a single night of this freezing wind. But I never expected, in the middle of that very night, Uncle Zhong hurriedly knocked on my door and said with a grim expression, "Young master, something terrible has happened." Lady Shen was sold by Su Huaijin to an underground gambling den outside the city. The book in my hand snapped shut with a sharp thud. I looked up at Uncle Zhong, a sudden icy chill freezing over my eyes. I truly didn't expect a worthless punk like Su Huaijin to be even more audacious than I imagined. I thought he was just a spineless, greedy coward. But I never expected him to be such an absolute beast, selling his own woman to pay off his debts. What happened? I demanded. Explain. What happened after you threw Su Huaijin outside the city? Right after he was dumped, he headed straight for a shady gambling den outside the city gates and ended up losing a whopping 50 taels of silver in a single night. The thugs at the den were going to chop off one of his arms. In a desperate panic, he offered to hand over his own woman to pay off the debt. I let out a cold sneer. 50 taels. Back then, he easily took 200 taels of silver a year from me without even blinking. But now, for a mere 50 taels of silver, he actually sold out the woman who called him her everything. This is the shining light Shen Qingyan saw in him. Nothing but a filthy jackal hiding in the shadows. The gambling den's boss bought his story, believed him, and nodded to his men. Su Huaijin then led the gambling den's thugs back to that slum house overnight and tied Lady Shen up, dragging her away. Before they left, he even had the nerve to tell her that she was the one who ruined him. So she deserved to pay off his debts. My men followed them to the gambling den. They didn't want to make any reckless moves, so take Hak to report to you first. I fell silent for a moment. To be honest, Shen Qingyan ending up like this is a path she chose for herself. I shouldn't even care. But even if our 3 years of affection are long gone, I can't just stand by and watch her get sold into a gambling den by a piece of trash doomed to a fate worse than death. Besides, that worthless dog, Su Huaijin. How dare he touch someone who used to be mine, right on my territory? Does he really think that just because I ruined his future in the imperial exams, I can't teach him a lesson anymore? Prepare the carriage. I grabbed my cloak, threw it over my shoulders, and headed straight for the gambling den outside the city with my guards. I want to see for myself just who gave Su Huaijin the audacity to pull off this kind of human trafficking. Right here, on my territory, in Jiangzhou. An hour later, I arrived at the illegal gambling den outside the city with my men. The owner of the den was a man named Wan, a cunning old fox who had been dealing with the underworld for years. The moment he saw me walk through the doors with over a dozen guards, his face turned pale white. He rushed out, bowing and scraping to greet me. Master Fang, what wind blows you to my humble place today? Please forgive me for not welcoming you properly. Truly, please forgive me. I didn't waste any time on small talk, cutting straight to the point. Moss Wang, let me ask you straight. Did Su Huaiji bring a woman named Shen Qingyan here tonight? Here, take this. Boss Wang's smile froze, and his eyes flickered nervously. Yes, that is true. But young Master Fang, this was a deal between Su Huaijin and me. He owed gambling debts, and using his woman to pay them off is only fair. Only fair? I took a step forward, looking down at him coldly, my voice carrying an unquestionable weight of authority. In this territory of Jiangzhou, Fai haven't given my nod of approval. Since when does Su Huaijin have the final say? Now where is she? Hand her over.
Boss Wang's face turned even paler.
Gold sweat instantly breaking out on his forehead. Having survived in Zhangzhou for so many years, there was no way he didn't know what I was capable of, let alone a petty illegal gambling den like his. Even the prefect of Zhangzhou himself has to show me some respect. He didn't dare cross me, quickly forcing a fawning smile. Yo, Master Pham, please calm your anger. I had no idea this woman was connected to you.
She's right in the woodshed in the backyard.
I'll take you there right away.
Please, this way. And the debt. I don't want it anymore. I really don't.
I followed Boss Wang to the backyard. Just as we reached the woodshed door, I heard Shen Chuyan's desperate cries coming from inside, mixed with Su Kuai-jin's furious shouting.
Shen Tingyan, you'd better behave.
If it weren't for you, would I have lost so much money?
It's only right that you pay off my debt. Once I pass the imperial exams and make it big in the future, I'll make sure you're well rewarded.
So right, agent.
You absolute beast.
I must have been blind to ever trust you. I'll kill you.
I kicked the woodshed door wide open. The scene inside came into full view instantly.
深情眼，我抬提剃透的铺了。
Her hair messy and disheveled. Her face was covered in tear stains, and a trickle of blood ran from the corner of her lip. Her dress had been ripped to shred, leaving her in a complete, humiliated mess.
Then there stood Su Kuai-jin, his hand raised high,
Looking ready to strike her. As soon as they saw me enter, both of them froze.
Shen Qingyan stared up at me.
Shock flashed in her eyes at first, before giving way to a wave of deep, agonizing pain. Fresh tears spilled over instantly. Lerm kept trembling violently, but she couldn't choke out a single word.
速快件，我那儿念，纯代系培养。
He dropped his hand in an instant and stumbled back 2 steps, his eyes darting around guiltily, not even daring to look up at me. He stammered out, trembling. Yeah, young Master Pham. What brings you here? I ignored him completely, walking straight past him to Shen Qingyan, and gestured to the guards to untie the ropes on her. The moment the ropes fell away,
Shen Qingyan's knees buckled,
and she collapsed to her knees right in front of me. She grabbed the hem of my clothes, crying desperately. I was wrong. Please, save me, save me. I gently brushed her hands away,
Turned to glare at Su Kuai-jin.
and gestured with a tilt of my chin to the guards. Pin him down. He's got a lot of nerve, trying to sell off people on my turf. I think he's tired of living. The guards lunged forward instantly and slammed Su Kuai-jin face first onto the ground,
舒海清腿傻瓦了。
shrieking at the top of his lungs.
What right you have to arrest me?
深群烟的雅，而勾肯色清的子。
You two are already divorced. This is none of your business anymore. I let out a cold, sharp laugh. I squatting down and look him dead in the eye, saying every single word with cold precision. In Zhangzhou, there is absolutely nothing I can't control. You spent my money for 3 years, played me like a fool, and you still dare to cause trouble right under my nose. Don't you worry. I won't let you die. I'm going to keep you alive and well, so you can see what it's like to beg for mercy and get none. Utterly helpless, I signal my bodyguards to drag him out. Turning around, I look at Shen Qingyan, who is still kneeling on the ground, and say coldly, whether you live or die from now on is entirely your own choice. It has nothing to do with me anymore. With that, I turn and walk away, without pausing for a single second. Behind me, Shen Qingyan screams my name in agony, her voice filled with heartbreaking despair. Yet, I don't even slow down my pace. But I never expected that by sparing Shen Qingyan this once, she would immediately turn around and do something that utterly froze my heart. First thing the next morning, Uncle Zhong rushes in with the lawsuit paper. Young master, this is bad. Shen Qingyan has sued you. She claims you did this out of malicious revenge, forcibly seized her property, and framed her father for embezzlement. I look at the copy of the lawsuit Uncle Zhong hands me, running my fingertips over the crooked handwriting on the paper. I find it both utterly ridiculous and sickeningly cold. I just rescued her from that hellhole last night, and she turns right around and sues me at the Zhangzhou Prefectural Court. Great. That is just wonderful. She really has some nerve. I toss the lawsuit onto the table, lean back in my chair, and slowly tap my fingers against the desk.
Where is Su Kuai-jin?
I bet Su Kuai-jin is the one who came up with this lawsuit idea for her. You guessed it, young master.
Uncle Zhang nods.
His voice was dripping with anger. Our men just uncovered something. After you left last night,
Su Kuai-jin went right back to Lady Shen.
he got down on his knees, crying and begging for her forgiveness. He claimed he just wasn't thinking straight. and that the loan sharks from the gambling den forced his hand.
He even had the nerve to say that the way you treated them was nothing but a rich, powerful man throwing his weight around to bully them.
Who told her they had to take this to the magistrate's court
Just to claw back the things you took from them? And to save his father. And Lady Shen, completely losing her head, actually believed him. I let out a cold, mocking laugh. Shen Qingyang. Oh, Shen Qingyang. After 3 whole years, I still can't tell if you're just incredibly stupid or utterly wicked.
Su Kaijin literally sold you to a gambling den.
And you forgive him just like that? Yet, I'm the one who saved your life. And you turn around and drag me to court? I guess you really can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. When is the court hearing? Answering the young master. It is scheduled for noon today. The prefect has summoned you to stand trial at noon. I gave a slow nod. Stood up and adjusted my robes.
Prepare the carriage, since she wants a showdown in court.
Then I'll gladly play along. I want to see if, in front of the judge, she can actually make her lies hold any water.
Noon. The courtroom of Jiangzhou Prester.
The moment I stepped inside,
I saw Shen Qinyan and Su Huijin standing at the plaintiff's table.
我们顺群羊所米.
her eyes darted away guiltily. But then, as if stealing her resolve, she straightened her back. As for Su Huijin, he had a smug grin on his face, beaming with confidence as if victory was already in his grasp. The prefect slammed his gavel down, hard, and the courtroom fell into a dead silence.
Plaintiff Shen.
You accuse the defendant, Fan Yanqiu, of malicious retaliation, illegally seizing your premarital assets, and framing your father. Is that correct? The bitter marriage of a humble scholar. Is this true?
圈禁言，困你四七四七.
Bowed respectfully to the prefect, and said, Your Honor, her voice trembling with tears. Every word of your servant's testimony is the absolute truth. The fealty spien, my divorce from Fan Yanci was mutually agreed upon. But he didn't just take back all our marital property. He even seized my own premarital dowry. He even falsely accused my father of embezzlement and had him thrown into prison. I beg your honor to bring me justice. The prefect turned to look at me, his tone softening slightly. Young Master Fang, do you have any defense against the plaintiff's claims? Pan Yatsi stepped forward calmly and replied, Your Honor, every word she says is a complete lie. He gestured to his assistant to present the ledger, continuing, Your Honor, please look at this account book. The premarital dowry Shen Qinyan claims is hers. Everything from the estate to her jewelry, from the art studio to the servants, was bought and paid for by me after our wedding. Every single expense is clearly recorded, with receipts to prove it. As for her actual premarital dowry, it was nothing more than 2 boxes of old books and a single silver hairpin. She still has them in her possession right now. I haven't touched them at all. So how can she claim I seized them? The prefect flipped through the ledger, verifying the attached receipts, and nodded. They then looked at Shen Qian. Lady Shen, the records in this ledger are crystal clear. These things were indeed provided for you by young Master Fang after marriage. Taking them back after a divorce is entirely reasonable. What else do you have to say for yourself? Shen Jingyan's face turned pale. She stammered frantically. Even if he gave them to me, he still had no right to destroy my livelihood. He had banned me from lecturing at every single academy in Jianan. He barred me from attending every single poetry club. This is nothing but malicious revenge.
Shen Qingyang.
May makes you think your title as the most talented woman in Jiangdou
Was actually earned on your own? Your Honor, I have here letters from Master Zhou, a giant of the literary world, as well as handwritten letters from 3 other scholars who ghost-wrote and polished her poems. More than half of the poems in Shen Qingyan's collection were actually ghost-written and polished by these very scholars. I was the one who paid for the printing costs. I was the one who invited the renowned writers to write her prefaces. Even her teaching post at the Women's Academy was secured through bribes that I paid. Now, I have simply asked them to withdraw their authorization and set the record straight. How on earth is that malicious revenge? At these words, the courtroom instantly erupted into an uproar, and Su Huijin, who was standing nearby, turned deathly pale. He had always believed Shen Qian was truly talented and could help him network with prominent scholars. He never expected that even her poetry was entirely ghost-written. After reading the letters, the prefect looked at Shen Qian with clear disdain in his eyes. Shen, how dare you deceive the world to steal such fame? How dare you pose as a literary genius? What else do you have to say? No, that's not true. My poems,
I wrote them myself. Looking at her pitiful state, I didn't feel a single shred of pity. I continued. As for her father's embezzlement of the water transport funds, here is the complete ledger. Every single stolen coin is recorded clearly in black and white. Both physical evidence and witnesses present. Your Honor may verify it immediately. If I have made even the slightest false accusation, I am willing to accept the harshest punishment. After examining the ledger, the prefect's face darkened completely. Regarding the plaintiff Shen's claims, her allegations are utterly groundless. Therefore, they are hereby dismissed. As for the embezzlement case of Shen's father,
The evidence is ironclad. A formal trial will be scheduled for a later date.
as the gavel slammed down, Shen Qingyan instantly collapsed to the floor, paralyzed with fear. His face turned pale as death. Seeing that things were going south, Su Haijing turned around to slip away, but the men I brought blocked his path.
I walked right up to Shen Qingyan.
Looking down at her with cold disdain. This is the very last time I will spare your pride.
If you ever dare to scheme against me again, I won't be nearly as polite as I was today.
With that, Feng Yanji turned on his heel and left.
As they walked out of the magistrate's office, Uncle Zhong approached and asked, "Young master,
How should we handle Su Haijing?"
Feng Yongxia let out a cold sneer.
Let him go for now. I want him to watch as every single path of escape is cut off, and watch him plunge into the abyss step by step. Now that is what I call fun.
But I never expected that.
After being backed into a corner, Su Haijing would actually dare to target my most valued shipping business. He even wanted to drag Shen Qingyan into setting a deadly trap for me. 3 days later, Uncle Zhong rushed in to report, "Young master, Su Haijing has colluded with the river bandits on the shipping route.
They want to hijack our cargo ships. He even said he'd sell the goods to raise money, so he can go to the capital and sue you."
Hearing Uncle Zhong's report, I slammed my teacup heavily onto the table. The tea splashed out, soaking the shipping ledgers on the desk.
Well, Su Haijing.
And wanted to take my time playing with him, but it seems he's begging for death. He actually dares to touch my shipping business and collude with river bandits? He must really be tired of living. Most of the shipping on this river is in my hands. Out of all the river bandits on these waters, who would dare show me, Feng Yanji, anything but the utmost respect? This crew Su Haijing found. They must have a death wish. Have you found out which band of bandits they are, and when they plan to strike? I looked up at Uncle Zhong, the icy chill in my eyes practically overflowing. We found out, young master. It's the bandit gang from Hefeng back. Their leader is Liu San,
We've had bad blood with them before.
and they've been waiting for a chance to sink their teeth into us.
受坏已经发狠，
And said he could give them our cargo ship's route.
He even promised that once the job was done, they'd split the stolen cargo 70-30. He wants 30% to raise enough money to go to the capital and sue you. The date they've set is just 3 days from now.
Our shipment of silk bound for Suzhou will be passing right through the Haifengku waterway.
Hearing this, a cold smile crept onto my face. A smile filled with pure, ruthless malice.
缩快眼睛，在一点是处理归类似。
He actually thinks teaming up with some water bandits is enough to hijack my cargo. He has no idea that the entire Haifengku waterway is my territory, let alone a small fry like Li San. Even if the grand boss of every water bandit on this river showed up, they wouldn't dare touch a single ship belonging to me, Feng Yanxi. And he even told Shen Qingyan about it. Our men overheard Su Haijing telling Lady Shen that as long as they hijack this shipment and get their hands on the money, they can go to the capital and bribe their way through. Not only would they be able to overturn his father's case, but they could also utterly ruin your reputation. And Lady Shen, she didn't even object. She actually told Su Haijin all about the cargo routes and security measures you had shared with her in confidence. At that moment, the very last shred of affection I had for her completely vanished. I used to think Shen Qingyan was just foolish,
And had simply been manipulated by Su Haijing.
but now, it seems she is absolutely determined to ruin me, even if she has to collude with water bandits to destroy my business. She's willing to work with Su Haijin to destroy my life. Well, if that's how it is, then there's no reason for me to show any mercy. Good. Very good. I stood up and walked over to the window, staring out at the rushing river. Since they want to play games, I'll make sure they get a game they'll never forget. Uncle Zhong, go make the arrangements. I leaned in close to Uncle Zhong's ear and whispered my plan to him. As he listened, Uncle Zhong's eyes lit up. He nodded eagerly and said, "Brilliant, young master. This time, we'll make sure they never return alive." 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. When the scheduled day arrived, my 3 silk cargo ships departed from Jiangzhou, right on schedule. Sailing down the river, heading straight for Suzhou.
The ships looked completely ordinary from the outside, with only a handful of regular deckhands walking about.
Their guards seemed completely down.
But lurking in the dark waters of Black Wind Gorge,
Lu Shan and a dozen of his river bandits
were rowing silently, hiding deep within the reeds.
Staying right beside Liu San was Sum Haijin.
his face twisted with greedy excitement and malice.
Boss Liu, don't you worry.
This cargo is worth at least 10,000 taels of silver.
Once we take it,
We'll be set for the rest of our lives.
Liu Scan grinned.
baring his rotten yellow teeth.
Rest easy, young Master Su. As long as your intel on the route is correct.
This loot is as good as ours. Once we have the goods in hand, I'll make sure we deal with that thing Yancy for you.
Little did they know, every single move they made was being watched by the scouts I'd hidden in the shadows. Inside the cargo holds of those 3 ships were 20 elite guards I had personally handpicked. Every one of them was a highly skilled martial artist, armed with official arrest warrants issued straight from the Jiangzhou prefecture. As the cargo ship sailed deep into the waters of Black Wind Gorge, Lu Sam gave the signal. Dozens of small boats instantly burst out from the reeds,
Swaying the cargo ships from all sides, screaming and brandishing their blades. The bandits leaped onto the decks.
They thought this would be an easy ambush. But the second their feet touched the wood, my guards surged out from the cabins, swords drawn. These thugs were absolutely no match for highly trained professional guards. Within moments, they were beaten to a bloody pulp and pinned face down on the deck, one by one. Seeing the tide turn against him, Liu San panicked, seeking around to dive overboard and escape. But a guard grabbed him by the collar and slammed him brutally onto the deck. Meanwhile, Su Raijin's legs had completely turned to jelly. He collapsed in his little boat, trembling uncontrollably, unable to move a single muscle. Just then, Fang Yanxi's elegant pleasure boat came gliding out slowly from behind. I step onto the cargo ship and look down at the river bandits pinned to the deck. And there's Su Raijin, slumped in a small boat nearby, his face completely pale. I let out a cold laugh. Su Raijin, didn't you want to hijack my cargo and head to the capital to report me? Why are you frozen in fear now? Huaizin raises his head to look at me, his eyes absolutely filled with terror. He stammers, trembling. Young Master Fan, I was wrong. I lost my mind. It was Husan. He forced me to do this. I never wanted to steal your goods. Still trying to shift the blame, even now? I crouched down to look him in the eye. You colluded with river bandits and plotted to hijack my cargo. All the evidence and witnesses right here.
Do you really think you can get away with this?
I waved my hand, signaling my guards to drag him up. Turning to Head Constable Zhang from the local magistrate's office, I ask, caught red-handed with the stolen goods, colluding with bandits, and plotting armed robbery.
Under Jiangdong law, what is the penalty? Constable Zhang quickly bows. Young Master Fang, by law, the sentence is death by beheading.
Even for an accomplice, the minimum sentence is exile of 3,000 miles. Never to return home! Hearing this, Huaijin's face turns deathly pale. With a heavy thud, he drops to his knees and begins desperately banging his head against the ground. Blood streams down his forehead as he screams, Young Master Fan, kiss my life! I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, just spare me this once. I swear, I will never do it again. Looking at him begging like a pathetic, groveling dog, I feel nothing but absolute disgust. Back when he was trying to impress Shen Qingyan, didn't he act like some noble, brilliant scholar? How does he not have a single ounce of backbone now? Spare you, I sneer. When you colluded with those bandits to steal my cargo, did you ever think of sparing me? When you sold Shen Qingyan to that gambling den, did you ever think of sparing her? A piece of trash like you is a complete waste of space. I tilt my chin toward the head constable. Take them all back to the magistrate's office. Sentence them exactly according to the law, without an ounce of mercy.
The head constable immediately ordered his men to tie up Su Huaijin and the river bandits. Just then,
Uncle Zhang suddenly leaned in close to me
and whispered, Young Master,
we found out that Shen Qingyan is waiting at the pier right now, expecting news from Su Huaijin.
I raised an eyebrow, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. Well then,
I hadn't even gone looking for her yet.
Yet she delivers herself right to my doorstep. Since she is so eager to seek death alongside Su Huaijin,
then I'll gladly oblige her.
When I returned to Jiangzhou Pier with my men,
I spotted Shen Qingyan's figure from a distance. She was standing at the corner of the pier, wearing a simple, coarse dress, constantly straining on her tiptoes to peer out over the river. Her face was filled with anxiety and anticipation, clearly waiting for news of Su Huaijin's successful cargo heist. As our boat pulled up to the dock, her eyes lit up at first, but then she saw Su Huaijin being dragged down in chains,
flanked by the constables next to me.
Her face instantly drained of color. She stumbled back a few steps and spun around, desperate to escape. Stop her! Don't let Shen Qingyan escape. My guards instantly surged forward, cut off her escape. Surrounded and trapped, she watched me approach step by step, trembling from head to toe. Her lips trembled violently, but she couldn't utter a single word. What's wrong? Now that you see Su Huijin has been captured, you want to run? With a heavy thud, Shen Qingyan fell to her knees, tears instantly gushing down her face.
Shen Qingyang.
Did you forget? Did you forget? The route and security plans for this cargo hijacking were all leaked to Su Huijin by you. Did you honestly think you could get away with this? Shen Qingyan grabbed the hem of my robe, sobbing hysterically. Yasi, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, it was Su Huijin. He told me that if we hijacked the shipment, we could save my father. He tricked me. I was set up. Tricked by him. Shen.
Qingyan.
From the moment he sold you to the gambling den, for we incited you to sue me, to this time when you colluded with water bandits to rob me. You willingly went along with it every single time. You weren't tricked by him. You chose to follow him of your own free will, just to destroy me. I gently brushed his hand away and said to the head constable, Constable John, Shen Qingyan was involved in plotting this heist. He is an accomplice. Take him back to the Tiger Fang Bureau for punishment. Yes, my lord. Shen Qingyan's face turned deathly pale with fear. He shook his head frantically, crying out to me, Please, don't do this. I know I was wrong. I will never do it again. For the sake of our 3 years of marriage. Please spare me just this once. 3 years of marriage. Hearing those words, my heart wavered slightly. 3 years of companionship. Even if you raise a dog or a cat for that long, you grow attached to them. But he crossed my boundaries time and time again, siding with Su Huijin to ruin me. He has left me with absolutely no room for mercy. Just then,
Uncle John leaned in and whispered, Young master.
old Madame Shen is here. She's watching from over there, not daring to come closer. Old Madame Shen was always a sensible woman. When Shen Qingyan wanted to divorce me back then, she opposed it with everything she had, and even went out of her way to send me a message, apologizing on his behalf. For her sake, I couldn't actually throw Shen Qingyan into a dungeon. I fell silent for a moment, before turning to Constable Jean. Constable Jean?
Though Shen Qingyang was an accomplice,
But she was also manipulated and deceived, and she wasn't directly involved in the scheme. So we won't take her back to Fuyang for now. As for the rest, we'll deal with them according to the rules. It's all up to young Master Fang. As Hu Huijin was being dragged away, he kept screaming and cursing at Shen Qing, calling her a jinx. You ruined my entire life! Shen Qingyan collapsed onto the ground, watching Su Huijin's receding back as he was dragged away. Her face was pale as death, and silent tears streamed down her cheeks. Old Madame Shen rushed over in a panic, fell to her knees before me. I began to desperately kowtow. Young Master Fang, thank you. Thank you for sparing Qingyan this time. Please, let this old woman kowtow to thank you. I quickly helped old Madame Shen up. Madam, there's no need for this. I am only sparing her this time for your sake. I will let her off just this once. But this is the absolute last time. If she ever dares to cross me again, it won't end this easily. Quickly, thank young Master Fang. Old Madame Shen nodded frantically, grabbing Shen Qingyan's arm, urging her to thank me. But Shen Qingyan looked as if she had lost her soul. She just sat on the ground, completely silent. I didn't pay her any more attention and turned to leave. But just then, old Madame Shen suddenly called out, Young Master Fang! Young Master Fang, please wait. There is something I must explain to you. I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at her. Old Madame Shen let out a heavy sigh, her eyes filled with deep guilt as she looked at me. Young Master Fang. Actually, when she divorced you back then, it wasn't entirely her own idea. And it wasn't just because Su Huijin deceived her. It was her father. Hearing that her younger brother was also pulling strings behind my back, I froze for a moment. I frowned. What do you mean by that? Her father and brother always thought you were just a playboy from a wealthy family, living off a small ancestral estate, with absolutely no real power in your hands. They believed you couldn't help her brother pass the imperial exams and enter officialdom. Then Su Huijin told them that he knew the commissioner of education in the capital, and could easily secure a bright future for her brother. And they fell for it hook, line, and sinker. They kept nagging and pushing her every single day at home.
They told Qingyan that you could never give the Shen family a future.
That only Su Kuai-hiji could help them. Qingyan, she is so soft-eared and easily swayed, with her father and brother nagging her day in and day out,
And Su Huaijin constantly sweet-talking her.
she completely lost her mind and demanded a divorce from you. I stood there, rooted to the spot, a wave of bitter, indescribable emotions washing over me. I had always thought Shen Qingyan genuinely believed I couldn't connect with her soul,
And that she had truly fallen for Su Huaijin's talent and charm.
I never expected there to be such a calculated scheme behind it all. Old Madame Shen continued. And that is not all. Qian has been kept completely in the dark about your true identity. Her father told her that you were nothing but a useless playboy squandering his inheritance. Even now, Qingyan has no idea that half of Jiangzhou's water transport business and all the major silk shops and bookstores are actually your industries. If she had only known, she would never have dared to demand a divorce. I let out a helpless, bitter chuckle. So, that's how it is. I stared at the ice melting in my cup, a helpless, self-deprecating smile playing on my lips. I had hidden my true identity all along, simply wanting to find someone who didn't covet my wealth, someone who truly wanted to share a life with me. Who would have thought that because of this, she looked down on me as a useless dandy with nothing but a bit of family property, leaving her family and Su Huaijin the perfect opportunity to manipulate her. Right then, Shen Qingyan, who had been standing there looking utterly lost, suddenly looked up at me. Her eyes were wide with sheer shock. Mother. What did you just say? Half of Jiangzhou's water transport actually belongs to Fang Yasi. Old Madame Shen glared at her and hissed in sheer disappointment. You absolute fool! You're only realizing this now? How do you think you got your reputation as a genius poet? How do you think your father landed that cushy government job in canal transport?
Jane, she handed all of it to you.
You had a perfect life, but you threw it all away. You were sold out by others and still helped them count the cash.
Shentina witched a head around to look at me.
Her lips trembling violently.
Yamti.
Is what my mother said true? Looking at her pathetic state, I said calmly, every single word of it is true. From the publication of your poetry collection, to the success of your literary salons, to your prestigious teaching post for young ladies, and even your father's government position and funding for Su Kuai-jin. I was the one behind all of it.
Hearing this, Shen Qingyan's knees buckled and she collapsed, completely blacking out.
Staring at her unconscious body on the floor, I felt absolutely nothing. Realizing it now, too late. But I never expected that the very first thing Shen Qingyan would do when she woke up was run to my estate's gates and drop to her knees, refusing to get up. She begged for my forgiveness, pleading to start over with me. She stayed there, kneeling at my gates for 3 days and 3 nights. From the very morning she regained consciousness, she wore nothing but a plain white dress, kneeling right outside the red lacquered gates of my estate. She didn't eat, she didn't drink. I refused to leave, no matter the wind or rain. I was so wrong. I was completely blind. Young master, she has already fainted twice. If old Madame Shen hadn't been secretly sending her water, she probably wouldn't have lasted this long. Hearing this, I merely gave a cold, indifferent order. Leave her be. If she wants to kneel, let her kneel. Let her kneel. It's not that I'm heartless. When she was dead set on getting a divorce, I gave her a chance. When she colluded with river bandits to hijack my cargo ships, I still gave her a chance. But she was the one who threw them away time and time again, repeatedly choosing to stand against me. Now that she knows my true identity and realizes exactly what she missed out on, she finally comes begging for my forgiveness. It's too late. These hardened found. A shattered mirror can never be mended, and spilled water can never be gathered back. The endless spring rain fell, carrying a cold chill, striking the ground, splashing up droplets of water. Zhongshu walked over and said, "Young master, Lady Shen is still kneeling outside. She looks like she's about to collapse." The brush in my hand paused. The ink bled into a dark spot on the rice paper. I remained silent for a moment, stood up, and picked up the umbrella from my desk. Forget it. I'll go see her.
Holding my umbrella, I walked to the Xi'an gate. The moment the gate opened,
I saw Shen Qingyan kneeling in the pouring rain.
she was drenched to the skin,
Her hair was plastered to her face,
her lips frozen purple,
and her face as pale as paper.
her body was shivering uncontrollably.
You're finally willing to see me.
A spark of hope instantly flared in her eyes as she supported herself against the ground, trying to crawl forward. I was wrong.
I really know I was wrong now.
Please, forgive me, okay?
Can we go back to the way we were? I'll never be so foolish again. Holding my umbrella, I stood before her,
Looking down at her coldly.
instead of a dull life without a single spark.
Are you finished?
山清扬，用食材不是你的卧费。
Nor was it marrying that groom, Su Kuai-chi. Your mistake is that for 3 years, I held you in the palm of my hand and spoiled you rotten, giving you everything you ever wanted. Yet, you never once truly looked at me. You said I couldn't give you a soul connection. But you never even asked me whether I actually understood poetry. You only saw the money I showered you with. But you never saw what lay behind all that wealth. My true devotion to you.
Chen Tingyan noked in the pouring rain, listening to my worth.
Weeping hysterically and shaking her head non-stop. Yan! I know I was wrong. Please, just give me one more chance, okay? Chance? I smiled, my laughter filled with a trace of helplessness. I gave you countless chances.
From the moment you brought up divorce,
To when you dragged it into court. And even when you colluded with the river pirates. I gave you one path of retreat after another. Yet you threw them all away. Only now, when you have nowhere else to turn, do you finally remember my kindness. It's too late. From this day on, we are dead to each other. As I finished speaking, I turned around and walked away.
behind me, Shen Tingyan's hysterical, heart-wrenching cries rang out.
Yan! Along with the sound of her repeatedly kowtowing, but I didn't stop. Not even for a second. Returning to the estate,
I instructed Uncle
to lock down the gates and never let her near the estate again. If she dares to cause trouble again, throw her out immediately. Yes, sir. Uncle Zhong stood by my side and let out a soft sigh. Young master, have you really let it go? Just like that? After all, whatever affection we had over these 3 years ended the moment she chose to divorce me. I've taken my revenge on those who deserved it and taught them the lesson they deserved. That's enough. From now on, let's just leave each other in peace. But I never expected, even when I wanted nothing more to do with her, she still couldn't let herself move on. Half a month later, Kung Zhong rushed back in a panic to report. With a pale face, he gasped, "Young master, something terrible has happened. Lady Shen, she jumped into the river." Give her current situation. Her father locked up in prison. Her brother fled because his hopes for the exams were ruined, and her reputation completely dragged through the mud. Not to mention Su Zuajin being sentenced to exile. Her only remaining hope was for me to forgive her. When I heard that Shen Qingyan had jumped into the river, I wasn't surprised at all, since I refused to even see her, that she would choose this path. Didn't shock me in the slightest. I set my teacup down and asked calmly, "Was she saved?" Think local fishermen found her. She wasn't breathing when they dragged her ashore. She was already gone. They barely managed to bring her back to life. Right now, she's lying in
The house old Madame Shen rented.
still unconscious.
Uncle Zhong continued.
The doctor said whether she wakes up or not is entirely up to fate now. But she keeps calling out your name in her sleep.
Old Madame Shen sent someone to beg you, hoping you would go see her.
I fell silent. For a moment. To be honest, I didn't want to go. I had already made myself perfectly clear to her. It's over between us. Going to see her now would only give her false hope. I just couldn't let it go. But old Madame Shen is getting on in years, and she begged me in tears. If I didn't go, it would just be too heartless. Besides, No matter how wrong Qingyan was, she doesn't deserve to die. I didn't want her to actually lose her life because of me. So I got up, packed my things, and went to see her. An hour later, I arrived at a rundown house in the southern slums. The place was tiny and falling apart, the wind blowing in from every crack. The air inside was thick with a heavy smell of medicine.
Shen Qingyan was lying on the bed.
Her eyes shut tight, looking completely lifeless. Old Madame Shen was sitting by her side, her hair gray and disheveled, her eyes swollen and puffy from crying. Seeing we walk in, she scrambled to her feet. Master Fang. Master Fang. Thank you so much for coming to see her. If she wakes up and sees you here, she'll be so happy. I walked over to the bed and looked down at Qingyan. I felt a sudden, bitter pang in my chest. 3 years ago, when I married her and brought her home, she was still a bright, lively girl, so delicate and radiant. I cherished and pampered her for 3 years, spoiling her into the most envied woman in Jiangzhou. But now, she's reduced to this, her spirit broken and hanging on by a thread. Just to beg for my forgiveness, she was willing to throw her life away. When you think about it, she's a victim too. Used by her own father and brother, and deceived by Su Kuai-jin. She spent her entire life trapped in other people's lies, never once truly living for herself. I stood there for a long moment. Turning to old Madame Shen, I said, Madam, I've already sent someone to pull some strings at the magistrate's office. As for Master Shen's embezzlement case, most of the stolen money has already been paid back.
And since he was only an accomplice,
He'll face exile at the very worst. His life is not in danger. Once he wakes up, tell him to stop trying to end his life.
just staying alive
Is better than anything else.
Hearing this, old Madame Shan
Bowed and thanked me repeatedly. Young Master Fang, thank you. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. This old woman doesn't even know how to begin to repay your kindness. I replied coldly. No need. I only helped because you showed some sense back then. This is the absolute limit of what I can do for you. The wonderful Huan on your goal.
Jiangxi, don't go. Shen Qingyang 送礼 open 尘埃.
She reached out, desperately trying to grab my hand. I took a step back, dodging her reach. I only came to see you because I didn't want you to die. Otherwise, old Madame Shen would be left with no one to care for her.
Shen Qingyan's hand froze in midair.
The light in her eyes instantly died out as I walked out of the house.
Geng Guozhong followed close behind me.
He let out a soft sigh. Think. Yo, Master, you've already done so much for them. You've more than fulfilled your duty. I nodded slowly, looking up at the gloomy, overcast sky. The past, I murmured coldly, should finally be put to rest. Wasn't Su Hajin sentenced to exile? When does he leave? Replying to young Master, he departs in 3 days. Exiled 3,000 miles away. I let out a cold sneer. Good. I want to see if he can even survive the journey to the Nigud River. But I never expected, before Su Huijin was exiled, he still had one last trick up his sleeve,
digging one final pit for Shen Qingyan.
3 days later, the day of Su Huijin's exile arrived. I hadn't planned on going to watch, but Zhang Shu rushed over to tell me that right before his banishment, Su Huijin suddenly retracted his confession. He claimed that the shipping heist, the mastermind wasn't him, but Shen Qingyan. He said she held a bitter grudge after our divorce when I took back my property, harboring deep resentment, and instigated him to collude with the water bandits. I hijacked my cargo ships. Not only that, he even produced several letters, claiming they were written to him by Shen Qingyan, filled with details instigating him to destroy me. The magistrate's office has already sent men to arrest Shen Qingyan, saying they're reopening the case. Hearing this news, my face darkened instantly. What a piece of work, Su Huijin. Even on the brink of exile, he still didn't forget to bite Shen Qingyan back, dragging her down to burn with him. He truly is an absolute beast.
Are those letters real?
I asked. They're definitely fake. Our people investigated. Su Kuai-jin forged Lady Shen's handwriting while he was in prison. He knew his exile was set in stone, so he wanted to drag Lady Shen down with him to exact revenge on her for ruining him in the first place. I sneered. Back then, Shen Qingyan divorced me for his sake and stood against me, even going as far as colluding with water bandits. But in the end, it was this very soulmate she treasured so much who delivered the most brutal stab to her back. And the magistrate's men Have they gone to arrest Shen Qingyan now?
Yes, they've already gone. By now, they've probably dragged her to the magistrate's office.
I stood up, grabbed my things, and set off.
I immediately ordered a carriage to the prefectural court. I wanted to see for myself what kind of desperate deathbed struggles Su Kuai-jin could possibly pull off. By the time I rushed to the Jiangzhou prefectural court, the trial had already begun.
Shen Qingyan was kneeling on the cold floor of the courtroom.
Her face deathly pale, her entire body trembling uncontrollably, and her eyes filled with utter despair and disbelief.
Across from her stood Su Kuai-jin, wearing a prison uniform.
Bound by handcuffs and leg irons, yet a twisted, sinister smirk was plastered across his face. The prefect slammed his gavel down
and barked sternly at Shen Qingyan.
Su Kuai-jin accuses you of being the mastermind behind the canal cargo heist.
He even has letters written by you as evidence.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Shen Qingyan slowly raised her head to look at Su Kuai-jin.
Her eyes burning with pure hatred, as she cried out in a hoarse voice.
Su Kuai-jin!
You absolute beast! I must have been completely blind to ever trust you. I didn't write those letters. You forged them. Whether you wrote them or not. Simple handwriting test will prove it.
苏快捷是你。
Glaring at Shen Qingyan, with eyes filled with venomous malice. Watching them argue relentlessly, the prefect looked down at the letters in his hand, his brow furrowed in deep concern. Right at that moment, I stepped into the courtroom. I wanted to see exactly what kind of show these two were putting on. The moment I walked in, the courtroom fell dead silent. The prefect hurriedly stood up and bowed to me with cupped hands, speaking with utmost respect. Young Master Fang, what brings you here? Seeing me, Su Kuai-jin's face instantly drained of color, and his eyes darted away in fear. And the second Shen Qingyan saw me, she looked at me like I was her absolute last lifeline. I clasped my hands in respect to the magistrate and said calmly, Your Honor, I am here to submit new evidence. These letters that Su Kuai-jin submitted are complete forgeries. They were never written by Madame Shen herself. I raised my hand to signal the clerk, handing over the evidence as I continued. In these documents is the testimony of the jailers whom Su Kuai-jin bribed while in prison, proving he hired someone to mimic Madame Shen's handwriting. The magistrate quickly took the evidence, checking it thoroughly, then read over the testimony. In an instant, his face darkened.
He slammed his gavel down with a loud bang and roared at Su Kuai-jin. Su Kuai-jin!
How dare you! You have the audacity to forge evidence and frame an innocent person right here in my courtroom. Do you plead guilty? In that split second, all color drained from Su Kuai-jin's face. He slumped weakly onto the ground, stammering, No, that's impossible. Looking at his pathetic state, I sneered. Your Honor, Su Kuai-jin didn't just forge evidence to frame someone. He also bribed the jailers while in prison. By law, his sentence must be severely increased. I ask that Your Honor hand down a just ruling. The magistrate nodded in agreement. He slammed his gavel once more and boomed. Su Kuai-jin colluded with water bandits and conspired to commit highway robbery. The evidence of his crimes is ironclad. Now he has dared to forge evidence to frame another. This only doubles his guilt. His original sentence of exile for 3,000 miles is hereby changed to exile in the frozen wasteland of Ningguda, and he shall never set foot inside the pass again for the rest of his life. Depart immediately. Court is adjourned. As the gavel fell, two beliefs stepped forward and dragged the completely limp Su Kuai-jin out of the room. As Su Kuai-jin was being dragged away, he kept screaming hysterically at Shen Qingyan, calling her a worthless wretch, and swearing she would die a horrible death. Soon the courtroom grew quiet, leaving only me, Shen Qingyan,
And the magistrate.
The magistrate bowed to me with clasped hands and tactfully excused himself. Shen Qingyan remained kneeling on the cold floor. She slowly raised her head and looked up at me. Their tears kept falling, streaming down her cheeks. She kowtowed to me, her forehead hitting the ground. Her voice was so hoarse her words were barely audible. Thank you for saving me, yet again. I looked down at her and said coldly, I didn't save you. I just couldn't stand looking at Su Kuai-jin's hypocritical face. Falsifying evidence to frame others? He doesn't deserve to breathe the same air. Shen Qingyan lowered her head. The tears splashed against the ground. I know, she whispered. Nothing I say now can make up for what I done. I owe you. And I'll never be able to repay you in this lifetime. I didn't reply to her. I only knew that once Su Kuai-jin left this time, he would never, ever return. Live your life properly from now on. Don't let yourself get fooled again. And stop trying to end your own life over every little thing. With that,
I turned on my heel and walked away. Behind me, Shen Qian didn't call out my name again. Only her stifled sobs echoed in the air. As I walked out of the prefecture office, Uncle Zhong followed closely by my side. "My lord," he asked, "is there anything else we need to arrange next?" I shook my head. Looking up at the clearing sky, I said quietly, "No, nothing more. Those who deserved revenge have paid their price. Everything that needed to be said has been said. As for the rest, let them live out their own lives." But I never expected that 6 months later, I would run into Shen Chulian again at a literary gathering in Suzhou, and that meeting would be the very last time we saw each other in this life. 6 months passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, many things happened in Jiangzhou. Diane family's case was finally settled with a sentence of exile. They were sent to Ningguda, along with Su Kuaijin. After Shen Xingyan's younger brother fled, he vanished without a trace, never to be heard from again. Shen Qian and the old Madame Shen took the money I had left them, moved out of the slums, and rented a small courtyard on the outskirts of Jiangzhou to live a quiet, peaceful life.
申请呀，那个天的不会你一见。
Nor did she ever cause any more trouble. I heard that she spent her days copying books and embroidering, quietly keeping the old Madame Shen company. It was as if she had become a completely different person. Meanwhile, my life remained as peaceful and stable as ever. My business in Jiangzhou only grew larger and larger, until nearly half of the trade routes in Jianan were under my control. Even the imperial merchants from the capital sent representatives to Jiangzhou, eager to partner with me. One day, Master Zhou, a legendary figure in the Suo literary world, hosted an exclusive gathering. He went out of his way to send me an invitation. Since Master Zhou had written the preface for Shen Qingyan's poetry collection in the past, I considered him an old acquaintance and couldn't easily refuse. So I took Zhongshu with me and traveled to Suzhou. The gathering was held in one of Suo's most famous gardens, built right along the riverbank, boasting breathtaking views. The estate was packed with Jianan's literary elite and many prominent heirs of wealthy families. The atmosphere was incredibly lively. After exchanging a few polite words with Master Zhou, I found a quiet riverside pavilion to sit by myself. As I watched the painted pleasure boats drifting on the water and sipped my tea, I enjoyed a rare moment of peace. Just then, the sound of familiar footsteps approached. The fountainhead, accompanied by a woman's timid, trembling voice. "Yancy." I turned around, only to see Shen Qingyan standing at the entrance of the pavilion. Having not seen her in 6 months, she had changed completely. She was wearing a plain, simple cotton dress. Her hair was swept up in a base of bun, held together by nothing but a single wooden hairpin. Her face was entirely bare of makeup, and the arrogance and innocence she once wore in her eyes had completely faded, replaced by a weary, quiet resignation. She was holding a food basket in her hand. It looked like she was there to deliver pastries to the guests. When she saw me turn to face her, her body froze instantly. She quickly looked down, not daring to meet my eyes, her fingers gripping the handle of the food basket so tightly that her knuckles turned stark white. "What are you doing here?" I set down my teacup and asked her in a flat, indifferent tone. She looked up at me for a fleeting second, then immediately bowed her head again, her voice barely a whisper. "Right now, I'm working at a pastry shop in Suzhou, transcribing books for people and delivering pastries on the side. Mr. Zhou Salon ordered some pastries from our shop, so I brought them over." I nodded, not saying another word. The boat fell into silence, with only the sound of the river breeze blowing past. Shen Qingyan stood at the door, completely at a loss, unsure whether to stay or leave. After a long moment, she finally summoned the courage to look up at me. She said softly, "Yancy, for the past half a year, I've been wanting to say thank you. Thank you for helping me back then, and for leaving that money for my mother and me. Fatherest, if it weren't for you, the two of us probably wouldn't have survived. No need to thank me. I only did what decency required." She nodded, her eyes growing slightly red, though she didn't let her tears fall. She just looked at me and said softly, I know it's too late for anything I say now, and I wouldn't dare beg for your forgiveness. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I was completely blinded back then, and so foolish to throw away your kindness. The greatest regret of my life was demanding that divorce from you." As she said this, her voice was incredibly calm. There were no hysterics, no dramatic wailing, just a deep, heavy sense of guilt and regret. I looked at her, my heart completely undisturbed. I simply replied, flatly, "It's all in the past. Everyone has to live with the choices they make. It's good that you're living a peaceful life now. That's enough." "Yes, it is." She forced a smile, one filled with bitterness. "I used to think that a life of luxury, I used to think being a wealthy woman was all that mattered. Only now do I realize that a quiet, stable life and living in peace is what truly matters. It's just, I realized it too late." I wrote a letter to my father and sent him some silver. When he wrote back, he said he regretted everything. He said he shouldn't have pressured me into divorcing you, but Nothing we say now can change anything.
A breeze swept over the river,
Blowing the stray strands of hair across her forehead.
She stared out at the water.
her eyes filled with deep regret.
After a long silence, she turned her head to look at me and bowed deeply. Master Fang, I am so sorry. And thank you. I wish you peace and smooth paths ahead. May all your wishes come true. With that, she picked up her food basket, turned, and walked away.
She didn't pause for even a second, and she never looked back.
I watched her retreating figure slowly fade into the lush trees and flowers of the garden, leaving me with a strange, indescribable feeling in my heart.
Uncle John walked up to my side and let out a soft sigh.
Master, Lady Shen has truly changed. I picked up my teacup, took a sip,
and said calmly, "It is good that she changed.
people have to grow up, eventually. We all must face the consequences of our choices.
But I never expected that this meeting at the literary gathering would not be our last."
1 month later, I received a letter sent by old Madame Shen, along with a small package.
The contents of that letter left me in silence for a very long time.
1 month later,
I returned to Jiangzhou from Suzhou.
just as I stepped into the courtyard, Uncle Zhou handed me a letter,
Along with a small package.
My lady, old Madame Shen had someone deliver this. She said it's from young Master Shen. I took the letter and the package, completely stunned. Think, why would Shen Qingyan write to me?
I waved my hand.
Telling the clerk to leave.
Sitting alone in the study,
I opened the letter. It was written in Shen Qingyan's own hand. The handwriting was elegant, yet carried a slight tremble. It was clear his emotions were highly unstable when he wrote this.
the content of the letter was simple.
First, he apologized to me, saying, I'm sorry for everything that happened in the past. He said that after seeing me at the pseudo gathering.
He finally understood so many things.
Over the past 6 months, he had been copying books and doing manual labor every day, only while taking care of old Madame Shen. Did he realize how rare and precious the peaceful life I had given him truly was? He wrote that his greatest regret in life was never truly looking at me back then, and failing to cherish the 3 years we spent together.
He had been blinded by empty fame and sweet talk.
And lost the only person who had ever truly loved him. He said he knew there was no going back, and he never intended to disturb my life again. But keeping these words bottled up inside would leave him with no peace for the rest of his life. He also mentioned that old Madame Shen's health was failing. He wanted to take her back to their hometown in the countryside, to live a quiet, stable life. Never to return to Jiangzhou, and never again step foot into the bustling cities of Jianan. Thankfully, at the very end, he wrote a final wish. May you find peace throughout the seasons, and may everything go smoothly, year after year. May you find a good partner and live a peaceful life.
Let the past scatter with the wind.
From now on, our paths will part forever, and we shall never meet again. After I finished reading the letter, I fell into a long silence. I picked up the small parcel on the desk and opened it. Inside was a silver hairpin
And a book of poetry.
That silver hairpin was the token of love I gave her when I first married her. Back when we divorced, I took back all of her belongings. Only this silver hairpin she kept by her side all this time. And as for that book of poems, she wrote it herself over the past 6 months. No one else ghost wrote a single line, and no one else polished it. She wrote every single stroke herself.
Inside, there was no frivolous romance, no melodramatic self-pity.
Only deep regret for the past, and a newfound appreciation for a simple life. As I flipped through the poetry book, my fingertips brushed over her handwriting on the pages, and an indescribable feeling welled up in my chest. 3 years of marriage. Even if the love is gone, it's impossible to remain completely indifferent. She has finally grown up and finally understands. But it's all too late now. I wrapped the poetry book and the silver hairpin back up,
Placed them in the study cabinet.
and locked it. Just like she wrote. The past has scattered with the wind. What's done is done. I called out, Uncle Zhou. Uncle Zhou quickly pushed the door open. Young master, what are your orders? I said, go find out if Shen Qingyan and old Madame Shen are really returning to their hometown in the countryside. If they are leaving, prepare a carriage for them and send them 500 taels of silver. Tell them it's for old Madame Shen to recover from her illness, but don't mention it came from me. Just say Mr. Zhou asked someone to deliver it.
Uncle John froze for a moment, then nodded. This old servant understands.
I'll get on it right away. After Uncle Joan left, I walked over to the window and looked out at the courtyard. The peach blossoms in the courtyard were in full bloom. Spring has come once again, reminding me so much of when I first married Shen Qingyan. The peach blossoms were blooming all over the courtyard back then. But while the scenery remains, the people are gone. It can never go back to how things used to be. 3 days later,
人物效果穿制凸透的。
Miss Shen and the old Madame Shen have already taken a carriage back to their hometown in the countryside. They accepted both the silver and the carriage, but they asked someone to bring back a message. She said, thank you, young master. I will never bother you again. I nodded slowly and said nothing more. This matter has finally come to a complete end.
粗快已经待到了楼头的腋下。
getting the retribution he deserved, while Shinfu was exiled to Ninguda, paying the price for his corruption.
Shen Ting'an took her mother back to the countryside to leave out their days in peace,
paying for the choices she once made.
As the days went by,
My business grew larger and larger. Many people around me tried to play matchmaker, introducing daughters from the most prestigious families in Jianan.
They were perfect matches for my status, well-educated and refined. I didn't refuse them, but I didn't agree either. Choosing to just let things take their natural course, I still lived in my riverside estate in Jiangzhou, living a peaceful and quiet life.
Although occasionally, when I saw the peach blossoms blooming in the courtyard, would I remember the girl in her red wedding gown who married into my home 3 years ago.
but it was just a memory.
nothing more than a fleeting thought.
1 year later, a major event shook Jianan.
The imperial court decided to reorganize the canal transport system in Jianan, and they were looking for a trustworthy imperial merchant to take over the region's transport affairs. And I was the one they chose. An imperial decree arrived from the capital, naming me the chief merchant of Jianan Canal Transport, bestowing upon me an honorary 5th rank official title, and putting me in charge of half of Jianan's water transport.
Instantly, I became the most prominent figure in Jianan, with even the prefect of Jiangzhou coming to visit me day after day.
Kumpim Zhong would smile and tell me every single day, "Young master,
You are now the true master of all Jianan.
but I would only offer a faint smile, never taking his words to heart. This empty wealth and fame, they never mattered to me. But what I never could have expected was that on the very day I received the imperial decree,
I would hear of Shen Qingyang once more.
and that news left me in a long, suffocating silence.
On the day the decree arrived,
Yilis and noble scholars of Jiangzhou and the heirs of the great noble families all came to offer their congratulations. Carriages lined the streets outside my estate, and the celebration raged on for a whole day. It wasn't until nightfall, when the guests finally dispersed, that I finally found some peace. I sat alone in the courtyard, sipping my wine, quietly gazing up at the moon. Uncle Zhong approached, placing a warm cup of hangover soup before me. He hesitated for what felt like an eternity before speaking. "Young master, there is something I do not know if I should tell you." They looked up at him. "What is it? Speak." "It is about Lady Shen." But Uncle Cheng's voice grew heavy. "Our people in the countryside. Some word. They say Lady Shen?" The cup in my hand froze. The wine sloshed over the rim, spilling onto the stone table. "It's gone." I looked up at Uncle Zhong, my brow furrowing. "What did you say?" "She is gone, young master." "What do you mean by that?"
Uncle Zhong sighed deeply.
"The truth is, she passed away. They said the Dowager Lady Shen passed last month, and after burying her mother, Lady Shen fell gravely ill and never recovered. She held on for 2 weeks, and a few days ago, she left this world as well. She was only 23, and just like that, she is gone." I sat frozen on the stone bench, my hand tightly gripping the cold wine cup. I stood there in complete silence for a long moment. I thought he had taken old Lady Shen back to the countryside to live a quiet, simple life, earning an honest living. I thought he'd find some honest, down-to-earth person out there to settle down with, and just live out the rest of his days in peace. I never, in my wildest dreams, expected him to pass away so young. What happened? He was perfectly fine. How did he suddenly fall so ill? I asked, my voice cracking with emotion.
Yongqiu let out a heavy sigh.
"According to the villagers," he said, "once old Lady Shen passed away, he lost his will to live. His health was already failing, and jumping into the river back then completely ruined his constitution. On top of that, he was consumed by misery day after day, unable to let go of the pain in his heart. He basically just withered away. Before he died, he begged the village schoolteacher to write a letter for you, making promise to get it to you no matter what."
As Xiu spoke,
He pulled a letter from his coat and held it out to me. The envelope was already worn and wrinkled, and the handwriting on it was unfamiliar. It was likely written by the village stone teacher. I took the letter from him and tore it open. The words inside were dictated by Shen Qingyan and written down by the teacher. The letter was incredibly simple. He wrote that old Lady Shen was gone and that he had absolutely no family left in this world. He said he had lived his entire life in a daze. He had spent the first half of his life riding on my coattails, living in a bubble of fake luxury. By the time he finally woke up in the second half of his life, there was no longer any way to turn back. He wrote that he was sorry, but he had completely wasted the 3 years of genuine love I gave him. He said he would pay me back in the next life for everything he owed me. In this one, if there really is a next life, he promised to love me with all his heart and never, ever lose me again. He added that, once he passed away, he wanted to be buried on the hilltop, back in the countryside, facing the direction of Jiangzhou. She would wish me peace and safety, year after year, smooth sailing,
always. Fortunately, in the end, she left me with those same words. The past is in the past. Let it all drift away with the wind. Our paths stretch far and wide, and we shall never meet again. As I finished reading the letter, I sat quietly on the stone bench, looking up at the moon,
And fell into a long, heavy silence.
A cool night breeze swept by, showering the courtyard's peach blossoms, scattering their petals across the stone table, right onto that very letter.
It took me back to 3 years ago, the day I married her. She was wearing a vibrant crimson bridal gown.
Sitting in the bridal chamber beneath her red veil. The moment I lifted that veil, she looked up at me, her eyes curving into a sweet smile.
So bright and breathtakingly beautiful.
It was as if her eyes were filled with stars. I remembered her telling me
How she wanted to be a renowned poetess of Jiangnan.
I smiled and promised her, "I'll help you." Then I remembered the day she demanded a divorce, crying as she told me, "Xu Haxing and I share a connection of the soul. There is a light in his eyes that you could never have." I remembered her kneeling in the pouring rain, weeping bitterly, telling me that she knew she was wrong, begging for my forgiveness. I remembered that elegant gathering in Sudo, where she wore a simple, plain linen dress, carrying 10 boxes of food, quietly saying she was sorry, and wishing me a peaceful, prosperous life. Scene after scene flashed vividly through my mind. I thought I had let it all go long ago,
That I had finally made peace with it.
but the moment I heard of her passing and stared down at this final letter, a heavy, suffocating ache gripped my heart. It felt like something heavy was pressing down on my chest, making it hard to even breathe. At the end of the day, he was a pitiful soul too. Used by others his entire life, cheated and deceived. He never once got to live for himself. By the time he finally woke up to the truth, it was already too late. "Young master, are you all right?" Kuntal Joe looked at me, his voice laced with worry. I shook my head, folding the letter carefully and tucking it into my pocket. I said softly, "I'm fine." "Where was he buried?" Replying to young master, "He was laid to rest on the South Hill back in his hometown, right next to old Madame Shen's grave." I nodded. "Prepare the carriage tomorrow. We are going to the countryside. I want to visit him." Early the next morning, I took Uncle Zhang and rode a carriage to Shen Tianyan's old family village. It was extremely remote, taking us half a day just to get there. South Hill was right behind the village. I made my way up the mountain path and soon saw 2 graves lying side by side. The headstone in front read, "Tomb of Shen Tianyan." No family title, no grand honors. Just 5 simple words. I stood in front of the headstone, staring at those 5 words for a long, long time. Uncle Zhang arranged the offerings and wine we brought before the grave, faked the incense and candles. I stepped aside. I picked up the wine flask, poured 2 cups of wine, and poured one onto the ground before the headstone. "Shen Xing'an, I've come to see you." I drank the other cup myself. I whispered softly, "What you owed me. Let's just call it even in this life. In your next life, don't be so foolish again." A gentle breeze swept across the hilltop. The wind sweeps up the paper ashes from the ground and carries them off into the distance. I stood there for a long time, until the sun was almost below the horizon, before finally turning to walk down the mountain. On the carriage ride back to Jiangzhou, I leaned against the carriage wall with my eyes closed, and my heart felt completely at peace. All the grudges, all the past devotion, and all the obsessions. At this very moment, they've completely vanished into thin air. Now that he's gone, the past has gone with him. As the carriage slowly starts to move, heading toward Jiangzhou, I pull back the curtain and watch the scenery rush past outside the window. The past has truly scattered with the wind. From now on, for the rest of my days, the road ahead will be smooth. I finally understand the best ending in life isn't getting revenge on everyone who ever hurt you. It's letting go of the past, living your own life well, and cherishing the ones right by your side. As for what we missed, what we lost, and what we regret, just let them stay in the past and let them slowly fade away with time. From this day on, though our paths may part, may every year bring peace, and may every year bring happiness.